Hello, AES Vienna. I'm happy that you joined my workshop. I hope you're doing fine and you're all healthy. My name is Przemek Danowski and I work at Sound Engineering Department of Frederick Chopin University of Music as a teaching and research assistant. My main field of interest are spatial and procedural audio for extended reality experiences. I would like to present my research on how we could interact with sound within virtual space. Extended realities and spatial audio are now very hot topic, and I'm really glad that this is the case. For me, it all started when I was in my teen years. I watched a movie called The Lawnmower Man, and that was the moment when I decided to work with VR. Uh, but for the VR itself, it started with the work of Jaron Lanier and his company VPL. He envisioned VR being a great artistic tool, and in his book Dawn of New Everything, which came out in 2017, Lanier walked us through his multiple definitions of what VR is, and some of them are surprisingly accurate, yet unthinkable at first. Lanier is an active multi instrumentalist himself, so his experience as a performer influenced his approach to design and prototyping in VR. His way of thinking about VR was a great inspiration for my research. For a number of years, I was a professional classical musician, and what I found as a most intense experience was the moment when, after months of practicing the instrument you are playing, the instrument becomes a part of your body. You have such control over it that you don't think about technicalities anymore. This is a profound experience, one could say. It is almost superhuman. That feeling, was the thing that I was always looking for in work with music and sound. Yet I couldn't find it in front of mixing desk or with digital audio workstation. Now, after doing experiments with audio and VR, I believe that I found that missing piece, and that is something that I call full body engagement. Working with sound can be an amazing experience, especially if you are working in a great studio with perfect sound system and talented artists. But in a long distance, being closed in a control room with knobs and faders isn't what I would imagine as an ideal space for unleashing creative powers, even if it is the best control room you can imagine. Famous film editor and sound designer Walter Murch was an advocate of standing position during the editing work. He compared it to work that is done by a conductor or a dancer. Standing while editing can engage more muscles than the sitting position, of course, but there is a still long way from standing while using your DAW to using your whole body in the process. This is where extended realities can unleash your superpowers. In the fall of 2019, me and my colleagues Jakub Wróblewski and Andrzej Isakov, we've created an audiovisual tool that is placed in virtual reality. I wanted to have a controller or an instrument that will not resemble any known instrument, analog nor digital. I imagined it like a quasi biological entity which I will be able to manipulate with a touch like gestures. I called it Monad. The first use case was concert, where I presented a composition called Connection that was modulated with the Monad live on stage. Here is a bit from that performance. Connection was created using Unreal Engine 4. We used first version of Oculus Rift VR headset and touch controllers. The audio setup was based on 8-channel loudspeakers sound system that surrounded the auditorium. The audio routing was a bit hack because I needed 8 channels and Unreal Engine 4 at that moment was capable of emitting 7.1 channels and I couldn't use LFE as an 8th channel. So I used Ambisonics to have it spatialized and rendered to horizontal 8 speaker array. What's more, I actually was using UE4 as a spatializer and controller. The primary source of sound was Traction's spacecraft granular synth that was plugged in Reaper. The sound from it was routed to virtual sound device, which was plugged to audio capture component in UE4. The sounds from the granular synth were modified by movement of my hands. I could change the granularity and LFOs. The sounds were spatialized in UE4. The audio sources were positioned on my virtual hands, so as I moved them around the monad sphere, they were positioned in space around it and rendered around the auditorium via a sound system. Okay, here is a connection project in Unreal Engine, and this is the monad, the entity, the object that I used to improvise. I used to spatialize sound and control the granularity of the sounds. So this is how it looks like from the close up. And this red dot here represents the position of the listener. So when I was moving my hands around it, this is the place where the virtual microphone is. And this is a surround sound microphone as in Windows system. Typical sound system in games is 7.1. So this is also the case in Unreal Engine. So yes, and the code for the sound was basically placing the objects that were representing my hands. So the granular synth left and right, and we can take a peek in the visual code because Unreal Engine is able to have the code in this style. You can also program it in C++, but this is maybe more accessible for people that are used to work with Max MSP software. So actually it was getting information about location of my hands around the sphere. Previously I was using the granular synth that is native in the Unreal Engine, but I found that this traction spacecraft granular synth sounded a bit more expressive than this one. But this is also very good one. So here I was sending some MIDI information about the position of my hands, and they were translated into the MIDI controller changes. So yes, you can define how it will be, for example, clamped into values between 1 and 1 to 7, like in the MIDI. So yes, this is it. So this is not very much coding here, more like translating some values into another values and sending them over MIDI protocol. And in Unreal Engine you can also apply OSC protocol. It works really fine. So you can communicate with any software with OSC. So yes, this is the object. At some points, I was putting my head inside this sphere. So this is, like you can see, this is also a graphical um improvisation tool, and I'm controlling the camera that shows something on the screen. And the biggest issue was that people that watched were unable to be with me in VR, and they really wanted to be. So I had some people after the concert saying that, can we try it inside? So the next version that we are planning to do is a multiplayer one for multiple performance, and people from the audience also inside the connection. Um, we would like to have it online, so people from different places in the world would be able to access it, and improvise together or play together with multiple different instruments, not only this one, but some more. Here is a session in Reaper of the connection. So here is the spacecraft granular synth, and I use only the half of it because you can apply two samples. I was using pre-recorded track composed by me, and here you have routing. So tracks 1, 6, 7, 8 were spatialized in the Facebook spatializer, and then they were there was some processing, reverb, and rotation according to the location of the speakers, converting from higher order ambisonics to the first order ambisonics, and then exceptionally good decoder for loudspeakers by Bruce Wiggins from Derby University. If you're listening, Bruce, I'm really thankful for your job. Let me walk you through the schematic once again. So the communication starts with the MIDI going to the Reaper to start playing, and MIDI is driving granular synth, grains, and LFOs. Granular synth is producing two-channel audio, which is captured by Unreal Engine and spatialized inside. Uh, Position of my hands around the listener of the Unreal Engine are producing the spatialized sound. The Unreal Engine is producing 7.1 audio, which then I take into the ambisonic sound field by Facebook Spatial Workstation, and then I produce binaural mix for performer, and also I'm using some reverb. Then I'm using Wigware regular shape decoder to produce sound for the 8 uh, speaker sound system. And also I'm producing some LFE for more dense, more powerful sound. So I use two subwoofers spaced in the auditorium. So yes, that's it. So this is the bidirectional connection between uh, workstation and the game engine. And this is really interesting because uh, you can use game engine as any audio tool like plugins, but you have this 3D um, interface which you can program as you like, as you wish, which can produce visuals, which can analyze also the audio and produce visuals accordingly to the audio that is fed to. What I found using connection and doing this experiment is that you can translate any audio tool into the 3D world, but we don't have those tools yet. So uh, I'm starting to thinking about how you can translate any kind of audio tool. Imagine, for example, joining your samples like that. They're floating around, and I'm picking one, and that's it, my track. And another sample, I can join them. Yes, this is how I could edit sounds in 3D space and place them around me, as in the 3D space panning. Okay, or maybe this is the way to edit sounds in 3D space, like building blocks. I could do just like that, for example. So the imagination is limitless. You can apply any kind of uh, tool, visual tool, but the most important is this bodily interactions that you can put into this, that you can have this expression going out of your body as you were a performer. And what Jaron Lanier said, that emphasizing biological motion over rigid user interface elements is most important, because those user interface elements throw away most of what the body does. And the worst offender is a button. So using continuous controls, for example, like conductor, having those gestures to make the orchestra play softer or louder. So I would like to thank you for joining my workshop, and I believe that together with your ideas, we can build new world of 3D audio tools. And I hope that connection is the first step towards it. Thank you.